Over the last so many weeks, all of us have obsessed, and rightfully so, over one pandemic, one virus, which has affected millions of people and taken thousands of lives. I want to talk about another virus that also takes thousands of lives every year, but it will never be declared a public health emergency. Today is the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and transphobia. And while I don't ordinarily make videos, this is important to talk about. 21-year-old Anjana Harish, a queer person, lost their life to queerphobia because that individual could not continue to go on in the face of forced conversion therapy that her family was making her go through as a result of this culture of queerphobia that we propagate actively and passively. I can't say that I'm remotely surprised, but I am so heartbroken and disheartened that this is how things continue to be in 2020 and no one seems to give a flying fuck about it. There are a lot of reasons as to why I want to be a doctor, many reasons as to why I joined medical school. But one of them is that when I was 10 years old, I was convinced I was abnormal. My parents also thought something was wrong with me. And any parent that thinks that something is wrong with their child goes to a doctor. And I was also taken to a psychiatrist, one of the most renowned psychiatrists in Hyderabad. And that doctor sat across me from a desk and essentially said that I was right. Something was wrong with me. A 10-year-old boy shouldn't behave like that, so feminine. And maybe I was lacking a masculine influence in my life. The therapist asked my mother to stop working, to take on more traditionally feminine roles, and that I should spend more time with my father to have a more masculine influence in my life. I don't think I can ever stress on this enough or really describe what it feels like when you have been declared a disease and a criminal by all of society ever since you were 3-4 years old, because these are some of my earliest memories of being called chakka, faggot, meetha, tranny. I had a nickname when I was growing up. I was called 0.5. I was 4 or 5 years old and I didn't really know what it meant. And then I learned fractions. I was essentially being called half man, half woman. And everybody at home and school and so on for a good decade would just say, man up, be a man, behave like a dude, talk and walk like a dude. What is this? There was a time that I truly did not want to exist anymore because I was so sick and tired of the incessant homophobia and transphobia that I didn't think that there was any point in existing anymore, because what was casual, what was said in passing by everybody around me was dehumanizing. That content creators actually make money off of this stuff, and it takes public outrage for platforms like YouTube to actually take a video down.
और तुम जब हकते हो तो इंद्रधनुष निकलता है ना। चल ठीक है यार, टिकटॉक परियों का शहर, यूट्यूब शैतान का घर। साले मिठाई की दुकान पे लेके जाऊंगा, 200 में बिक जाएगा।
नहीं, मैं क्या बोलता हूँ, इन जैसों का ना एक अलग से देश बना देना चाहिए, द मिठा देश। कम से कम हम लड़कों का नाम तो नहीं खराब होगा ना। हाँ भाई, देख लो अपने देश में एक नई प्रजाति आई है। नहीं साला, इसके घर वाले कितने खुश होंगे, बोलागा हमारा बेटा हुआ है, नाम रोशन करेगा। ये साला अपना जिस्म बेच रहा है यहाँ पे इंटरनेट पे। डॉक्टर ने बोला होगा मुबारक हो लड़का हुआ है, लेकिन ये तो असली में मिट्टी मिट्टी चाशनी निकला। मिट्टी मिट्टी चाशनी, बढ़िया गाना था वैसे। थैंक यू सो मच। चैनल पे 4 लाख सब्सक्राइबर हो गए हैं।
When carryminati's video got taken down by YouTube, finally, there was an outpouring of support for him. People were saying, this is so sad that YouTube is snatching away your free speech and so much work goes into your videos, and don't worry, stay strong, bounce back from this. It makes me want to puke. Do you have any idea what it takes to bounce back from the kind of dehumanization, from the kind of insult, from the discrimination that we face on a daily basis? I mean, there is a difference between intention and impact. You may be a wonderful individual, but at the end of the day, if the shit that you say is homophobic, if the shit that you say is transphobic, even if you don't mean it that way, thousands of people out there who actually happen to be transphobic and homophobic will take your shit seriously. They will find encouragement in the things that you say. They will be emboldened. Their own heroes and role models say these things. So why should they not say them? Homophobia, transphobia, queerphobia, these are not just about one video. It's not just about one word or one gali. And that culture of hatred is so pervasive and existent in so many aspects of our lives that it is even taught to us in our medical textbooks out there that we study, which say that homosexuality is a mental disorder and you are deranged if you practice it. Even doctors are not spared from this disease that is queerphobia. No wonder then that families that take their children, they're perfectly normal children, to doctors are treated the way that they are. It makes me physically sick that there are people out there who empathize with carryminati because his video was taken down. Where is your empathy when we are killed? Where is your empathy when we keep telling you again and again that the things that you say have real consequences on us? But I think it's important to put this out there that in 1987, homosexuality stopped being a disease in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders. In 1992, the ICD-10, or the International Classification of Diseases, released by the World Health Organization, removed homosexuality as a disease in 1992 in the 11th ICD, which was released in 2018 and endorsed by the World Health Organization on 25th May 2019, removed transgender people from the scope of mental disorders. Having a gender identity which is different from what you were given at birth is normal. The Indian Psychiatric Society released a position statement. It said that in the opinion of the IPS, homosexuality is not a psychiatric disorder. The IPS recognizes same-sex sexuality as a normal variant of human sexuality, much like heterosexuality and bisexuality. There is no scientific evidence that sexual orientation can be altered by any treatment, and that any such attempts may actually lead to low self-esteem and stigmatization of that person. 6 years ago, the Supreme Court of India, in a landmark verdict, the Nalsa judgment, said that each person's self-defined sexual orientation and gender identity is integral and is one of the most basic aspects of self-determination, dignity and freedom. There is nothing to fix. अगर कोई चीज टूटी ही नहीं है तो ना तो उसको जोड़ने की जरूरत है या ठीक करने की. You are the virus, you are the pandemic. If you are actively or passively involved in dehumanizing us, and unfortunately that will for a long time never be a public health emergency. It will never be taken seriously enough for the government to do something about it. Instead, the government releases legislation like the Transgender Persons Act, which says that if I was raped, that if a transgender person was raped, the punishment is 6 months to 2 years. When if it was a cisgender woman, the punishment is at least 10 years. Now, I'm not going to sit here and prove my patriotism to you, because I think the fact that so many of us continue to try and make this country, a better country to live in, is proof enough that we care, that we love this country enough to talk about what is wrong with it and want to try and change things. But fact remains that we are lagging behind, that we still continue to exist in a culture where dehumanizing queer people is funny, where it is celebrated in YouTube videos with millions of views, and when those videos get taken down, we show so much love and solidarity to those people that thrive on homophobia and queerphobia. They literally make money off of it. It is hilarious to me that I was called 0.5 growing up. Today, I understand fractions, and I'm sure so do you, which is why you need to understand that 50% of all transgender people in India will attempt suicide at least once before the age of 20. 1 in 2 trans people. And that 31% of all transgender people will end their lives by suicide. And this is just transgender people that we recognize. There are so many out there still in the closet. There are so many out there who don't have access to documents and legal recognition even today. These are the real life consequences of queerphobia that you may not see when you crack a transphobic or queerphobic joke. You may not see it when you say meetha and chakka and faggot, but these are the consequences that queerphobia kills people. It takes our lives away. And there are doctors and government officials and politicians and lawyers and systems out there which continue to practice that same queerphobia even today. Sometimes I am stunned that it is 2020 and I still have to point this out and create videos like this. आज भी ये कहने की जरूरत है that this is not normal, this is not funny, this is not something you can take for granted. You cannot use words like chakka meetha tranny in your content and make money off of it and then ask for solidarity. Like, what is wrong with us as a society that this is still okay? I said this many years ago and I continue to stand by it, that I love this country. I love a lot of things about this country, but I will never love this country for the way that it treats its people. There was a time that queer people were subjected to things like shock therapy, like electroconvulsive therapy, like behavioral therapy, wherein they were actually shown things like homosexual pornography and given shocks so they could be conditioned to avoid it. I have close friends and they are given hormones to fix their homosexuality, to fix their transgender identity. But you know what? The Supreme Court of India may have released the Nalsa judgment many years ago, giving transgender people legal recognition. The Supreme Court might have partly read down Section 377. The global medical consensus may be that we are not a disease, but at the end of the day, we are diseased as a society. I'm not the disease. You are. I wasn't born in the wrong body. I was born in a really screwed up world. And people ask me, when did you know that you were different? When did you know that it was okay to discriminate against us? When did you know that it was okay to call me 0.5? When did you know that it was okay to beat the shit out of somebody because they were queer? Because when you knew that that was okay, that's when I knew that I was different. Make no mistake, I'm not the pathology. You are. I'm not the disease. You are. You create that kind of self-hatred. You create that kind of a society, an environment which is not conducive to us living. Please understand one thing. My right to life and my right to dignity is more important than your right to freedom of hate speech. Please understand that. If you're a doctor, for God's sake, if you're a medical student or healthcare worker, for God's sake, for your own sake, for your profession's sake, please take your oath seriously. When you say that you will not discriminate on grounds of sexual orientation and gender identity, that you will not let those things come between your duty and your patient, please. What is wrong with you? Like, what the hell? At the end of the day, there is no point in me giving you statistics and me giving you numbers, because this is not about statistics. This is about basic human respect, and that's not something that I can teach you. All I can say is go and talk to people at the side of the road. Stop when someone comes to you asking for money. Stop and talk to them for 5 to 10 minutes and see what their lives are like. And if you think that so much work went into your video and it's so sad that it got taken down, see what people have to do for a living out there because of the attitudes that you perpetuate. Go out there and survive for one day by doing begging and sex work, because nobody will give you a job, because chakkon ko to koi job nahi deta na. That is when, I promise you, you will not even think of saying those things in your life ever again. And it is high time that we grow the fuck up and treat each other better before more of us find no other choice but to die, because that is easier than living in our society.